Good morning.
Morning.
From speaking with practitioners and also from my own experience, I know that for many of us, zazen can be about quieting the mind. You experience your mind as busy. There's a lot of thought activity, feelings, emotions. And maybe you, or maybe a part of you, hopes that when you sit zazen, you can lessen this busyness, you can quiet the mind, you can find peace. Yeah? I mean, if you don't have this agenda, then you can listen to this talk to deepen your compassion for those human beings who are trying to quiet their minds. Now, sometimes when I speak with someone, this person will say to me, I'm still having all these thoughts. I'm still having a hard time, redirecting my attention. And this word still, I'm still, is very telling. As writers would say, it's doing a lot of work here. This word still is doing a lot of work. Why? What do I mean? It shows that you are making an unsuccessful effort. You've been making this effort for quite a long time. You are following certain instructions, like counting the breath, or whenever you notice that your attention gets captured by your thinking process, you are taking that attention and bringing it to the sensations of breathing, or we could say in a kind of formula, you're shifting attention to breath, body, and phenomena. Sensorial phenomena, sight, just seeing, just hearing. You're taking it away from thinking and you're bringing it to breath, body, and phenomena. And you're making this effort. And still, it's not working. But the word still also implies here that you are going to continue with this effort and have the hope that someday it will bear fruit, pay dividends, that it will work because it should. It's like, isn't this what all these meditation teachers are saying, that that's how you do it? Whatever exact instruction you're following. So I want to, at the risk of repeating myself, I want to bring up one of my favorite quotes of Suzuki Roshi. I've mentioned it many times. To some of you it will be familiar, to some of you it will be new. I don't know how that happened, but I think we were redoing something about our YouTube channel. I was working with our program manager, and so I was looking at, we had this chaos of, it just wasn't looking good. So anyway, I went in and, we decided to put different thumbnails or something. So I usually don't look at anything I say, and I don't look at comments, but here I was in the YouTube channel, trying to make an aesthetic decision, and then there's a I came across a comment and somebody said, well, we seem to be running out of topics. Some kind of, unkind comment of like somebody got bored with me saying the same thing. And I don't know, I just thought, yeah, I repeat myself. I'm saying this because I'm going to repeat myself. But it's interesting, if you listen to Dharma talks for the sake of information, then if there's repetition, you could be bored. It's like, I've heard this before. If you have a persistent problem, like you are stuck, right, then repetition might be a good thing because it's like a repeated encouragement to shift your view or to look at it differently. And it's kind of amazing how we can be stuck in making the wrong effort. Wrong effort, I mean, like, it's not working. It's ineffective. So here's this quote. Suzuki Roshi says, to stop the mind does not mean to stop the activities of mind. It means your mind pervades your whole body. Your mind follows your breathing. With your full mind, you form the mudra in your hands. With your whole mind, you sit with painful legs without being disturbed by them. This is to sit without any gaining idea. To stop the mind does not mean to stop the activities of mind. So, what are the activities of mind? It's thinking, it's feeling, it's emotions. It's, I would say, perceptions in the sense of when you perceive something as something, that visual impression as, a tree or as a car. So it's curious, right? It's not like there is a statement of it's impossible to stop the mind. The statement is that stopping the mind, which seems to be something he's talking about, it seems to be something that's possible. Stopping the mind does not mean to stop the activities of mind. Well, then what is getting stopped? If it's not the activities of mind that are getting stopped, what is being stopped? This should give us some pause, right? It's like, this is a strange thing to say. And then he goes on and says what it means to stop the mind. It means that the mind pervades the whole body. That is what a stopped mind is. A mind that pervades the whole body. Again, I'm not saying this is true. Let's just look at what he's saying. Each of us needs to find out what's true about this. Your mind pervades your whole body. And then he says, your mind follows your breathing. So a mind that pervades the whole body follows breathing. And it's like what strikes me here is actually the kind of effortlessness that seems to be implied in the words. When the whole mind pervades the whole body, it just follows breathing. There's no effort. It's just happening. And then he goes on, with your full mind, you form the mudra in your hand, and with your whole mind, you sit with painful legs without being disturbed by them. So there are the sensations of breathing, that this full, whole mind that pervades the whole body follows, but there are also the sensations of, there's also the posture. the forming of the posture, the mudra, feeling the posture, and the pain of the legs. And there's no disturbance. And this is the crucial thing. The stopped mind is the mind that's not disturbed. The non-disturbed mind is a still mind, you could say. It's a quiet mind. It's quiet of disturbance, as I like to say. There's no resistance or grasping. If you don't resist your painful legs, you're not disturbed by them. And so he concludes this little paragraph by saying, this is to sit without gaining idea. Meaning, I translate, to be content with what is. To not fantasize about a different kind of here now. To not resist what is happening, but to be just present to it. And the way I understand it, he's saying, this is a stopped mind. This is a quiet mind. This is what you are craving. This is what you're looking for. But you're going about it in the wrong way. You're trying to stop the activities of mind. Okay, so this is very clear, I think. Conceptually, it's clear. Okay, so then, I think, likely most people and many practitioners make a kind of dual mistake. One is to have a kind of false understanding what a quiet mind is. Because you're thinking a quiet mind is a mind that doesn't produce any thoughts, or isn't like the activities are stopped, that there are no feelings and so forth, which when that happens, it can be a relief. I'm not saying that isn't the case, but let's take as a lesson from these words, assuming they are true, that's the mistake. You have a wrong goal. A quiet mind is something different. It's a mind that's not bothered by activities. Even though there are activities, there is an experience of stillness. That is unbothered. So that's maybe the first mistake. And then the second mistake, we could say, is that you have the wrong idea of effort. What kind of effort is to be made? Now, if you do have this kind of problem that you're still not able to have a quiet mind, then my speculation would be that you're trying to shift focused attention from being captured by your thinking process or feeling process or so. It's getting captured, and you're trying to shift that attention to something else. You're shifting from one focus to another focus. And you're able to sustain that for a little bit, and then your attention snaps back to its habitual target, you could say. It's habitual involvement. Okay. So you keep making this effort of shifting attention from, it's involved with thinking, you're shifting it from this to that. And then snaps back from that to this. And then you do it again. And then you do it again. Or you give up and don't do it and just sit there and daydream. That happens. But what if this is the wrong effort? If that's the wrong effort, you can do this for the rest of your life, and it's not going to change. So in the first couple of phrases in this quote, it says to stop the mind means the mind pervades the whole body. So first we can just notice, for a normal human being who hasn't discovered the functioning of attention and hasn't done anything about how attention is functioning, is just taking it for granted, the mind, or we could say attention/awareness, does not pervade the whole body. It is focused on something. Even if it is picking up content, impressions from the body, it's focused. It will notice the pain in the knee, or it will notice the tension in the shoulders. This is not the whole body. That's just the knee, or just the shoulders. So it's a narrowly focused attention. And that narrowly focused attention is what usually operates. And you don't just see it with body sensations, you see it with anything. Attention jumps from one focus to the next. Again, that's something I speak about all the time. And for attention, for the mind, to pervade the whole body, something else needs to happen. It needs to widen out. Let's call it. It needs to widen out. It has to give up its narrow focus and widen out. And this widening out, like this, I'm just contrasting this right now. If your effort is to shift from one focus to another focus, from thinking to the breath, that's one kind of effort. To notice your thinking and then not to shift your attention, but to widen out, to release the focus, this is something very different. And I think I'd like you to really, just conceptually right now, just recognize that difference. It's different. You release the focus. As Uchiyama Roshi says, you open the hand of thought. Open the hand of thought. Well, really, I prefer to talk about attention. You are releasing the attentional focus. You're letting attention, so it's like rather than being narrowly captured, focused, involved with, engaged with this or that, you are releasing it into a wider field. You are letting it pervade the whole body. And I would say not just the whole body, but the whole world. If world means your attentional field. You let it all be there. So as soon as you notice that you're getting kind of focused, narrowed down into something, you release it. And you release it. And there's the same kind of repetition, but it's a different kind of effort. It's not like shift it, it's widen it. You could ask, then why is there, the instruction to, shift it to the breath. Isn't that misleading? But that's a topic for another talk. Well, let me say this much. Since I'm not going to give that talk, let me say this much. You're shifting in order to find a gate from which to widen. If you can shift to the sensations of breathing, then from there you can bring basically all of the body sensations into view, because breathing is one set of body sensations, and then you can let them all be there. You can shift to breath, and from breath you can widen to body, and from body you can widen to phenomena, and then you're letting it all be there. Now, this is very confusing. It's like, to let it all be there means, again, like I say all the time, the field-like mode of our attention, we could call awareness, is not to be concentrated on anything, but to be present to everything all at once with nothing in particular. Does that make sense? To be attentive of something particular is to be focused. To be attentive of everything all at once with nothing in particular is to not be attentive of anything in particular. So let me, I can't quote this from memory, so I brought more Suzuki Roshi. He says, in zazen, there's a line that I skipped. He says, concentration is not to try hard to watch something. To try hard to watch something is what we do, right? When we stay involved with our breath, counting the breath, following the breath, we're trying hard to watch the breath. And he says, that's not concentration. We could say it's a certain kind of concentration, but it's the kind of concentration that I'm not going to talk about now. In zazen, if you try to look at one spot, you will be tired in about 5 minutes. This is not concentration. Concentration means freedom. Okay. This is a bit out of context. He's talked about freedom before this. But let me reinterpret it, from my point of view. It's freedom from grasping and resisting. Having widened out, this is the concentration that he's talking about, is to not resist anything, and it's not to grasp for something in particular. It's to just be present to everything all at once. This he calls freedom. And I would say that this kind of freedom is also being present to a field of possibilities. So, and then he concludes, so concentration means freedom, and then he says, so your effort should be directed at nothing. You should be concentrated on nothing. Now, the word nothing is really confusing because I think we usually hear nothing as an absence, like everything is absent. If everything is present, then we have fullness, and if everything is absent, then we have nothing. But he's using nothing, and I'm pretty convinced he's speaking about emptiness. And emptiness is not nothingness. Emptiness is not the absence of everything. Emptiness is the absence of being committed to something. So emptiness is a fullness of possibilities, a fullness of possible things that could be actualized, but, they don't have to. Or if one thing gets actualized, doesn't mean all the other things that aren't being actualized by your attention right now aren't present. They're also present, they're just not being actualized. And so being concentrated, you should be directed, your effort should be directed at nothing. You should be concentrated on nothing, is nothing in particular. Everything all at once. So that nothingness is an everythingness without having pulled out anything in particular. In zazen practice, I'm quoting again, in zazen practice we say your mind should be concentrated on your breathing. But the way to keep your mind on your breathing is to forget all about yourself and just to sit and feel your breathing. If you are concentrated on your breathing, you will forget yourself. And if you forget yourself, you will be concentrated on your breathing. I do not know which is first. Forgetting yourself, that sounds like such a big thing. Like, how do you do that? Let yourself be drawn into the sensations of breathing. He says we say to concentrate on your breathing, but then through that gate to widen out and be concentrated on nothing. And if you're concentrated on nothing, even the self is forgotten because you are not pulling out yourself as something that is opposed to the thing that you're observing. Sometimes I think when you hear something like non-dualism or forgetting yourself, you think it's a big deal. I don't think it's a big deal. It's a kind of dissolution of finding yourself being watchful of something. If you're watchful of something, then somebody appears who's watchful. If you're not watchful of anything, the somebody who is watchful is also dissolving. This is what I think Suzuki Roshi calls here forgetting yourself. Forgetting is not something you can effortfully do, right? I mean, you could try that sometime to really try hard to forget something. The opposite will happen. You'll be remembering it and you're trying to forget it. But if you imagine you're zooming out, widening out, and you're not focusing on it, then it's forgotten. For that time. And then to conclude this paragraph, he says, so actually there's no need to try too hard to be concentrated on your breathing. There's no need to try too hard to be concentrated on your breathing. Even though you are using this instruction, don't try too hard. Just do as much as you can. If you continue this practice, eventually you will experience the true existence which comes from emptiness. Don't try too hard. Just do as much as you can. This is a relaxed attitude. But you might say, oh, this relaxed attitude is a kind of like, it's not it's not sincere or something. But it's not that it's insincere. It's widening out. You just widen out, you release. It's not trying hard, it's just releasing. And you feel your breath. And then my experience is actually, when you widen out like this, you just hang out in the field of awareness. Well, your mind is actually ready to pick up anything including the breath. So you effortlessly will discover your breath. Hang out with it for a while, and then, you might hang out with something else. If you punish yourself, it's like, I failed. I didn't stay with my breath. What happened? You narrowed. You made a perception that your practice isn't good enough, and you established a self. You've established somebody who evaluates. So you've lost it right there. And if you notice that you're doing it, what would you do? Make a big effort to shift attention to the breath? Or just widen out, relax. It's okay. This kind of thing happens. Is anything breaking? No. Just do as much as you can. And in this pretty relaxed, I could say effortless effort, you will experience eventually the true existence which comes from emptiness. That everything is present, you could say. That's the true existence, how things actually exist. Okay, so then I'll say a little bit more. More Suzuki Roshi from a different chapter. It's the one that follows it. Readiness. Your thinking should not be one-sided. A one-sided is narrowed down to one side. Not to be one-sided means to widen out, see the possibilities, There's at least two sides to everything. At least. Maybe 10 or 11. Depends on what shape you're watching. Your thinking should not be one-sided. If it is one-sided, it's narrow. It's obvious. We just think, he says, we just think with our whole mind and see things as they are without any effort. Just to see and to be ready to see things with our whole mind is zazen practice. Now, I'm bringing this here because this is a different context in which he speaks about the whole mind. We were saying the whole mind is just following your breathing, forming the mudra in your hands, sitting with painful legs without being disturbed by them. Here it's like thinking becomes one-sided and narrow, but he says we should think with our whole mind. That's not really thinking. That's not forming a view. That is releasing a view and holding yourself open. And what's kind of confusing here is that he's calling that thinking. Or we should see things with our whole mind, which is release your focus and see the whole field, nothing in particular. If we are prepared for thinking, ready to think, in other words. We're not thinking in this one-sided way, we're just ready to do it. If we're prepared for thinking, there's no need to make any effort to think. You don't have to whip yourself into shape to think a certain way. It's like if you're attentive in this wide way, the thinking will come, is what I'm reading here. It will come. You just need to be ready to receive it. This is called mindfulness. Mindfulness is at the same time wisdom. Now, he's using mindfulness here in a way that I don't. I use mindfulness to, you're attending without thinking about it. but it's a focused attention. But I think the way he uses mindfulness here is to think with the whole mind, attend with the whole mind, really. That's samadhi. Samadhi is notoriously difficult to translate. I think it basically can't be translated. Samadhi is the mind being present to the whole mind rather than being narrowed down. It's usually translated as concentration, and that's what Suzuki Roshi, in the first section that I shared with you, he's talking, concentration is not to try hard to attend to something. And he's basically saying, that's not samadhi. Samadhi is to widen out. So now he's, I think, still talking about samadhi, but calling it mindfulness. And he's saying that's wisdom. Now, another translation of samadhi that's now used, because people have picked up on this, that concentration is the wrong word. You know, some person in the 19th century translated it as concentration, and then it was just copied. And now when you look at the phenomenology of it, like what's really the experience, you'd say like concentration means to pull something together into a center. That's not what samadhi is. It's being pulled out into the field and losing the center. So we really shouldn't call it concentration. So now most people call it absorption. I don't know. I can't really make sense of absorption either, but I guess it's like the water that's being pulled into a sponge or something, you know. You're getting absorbed in the field. And you're losing yourself in the field. But for me, it's more like I would prefer something like undivided presence or something. Presence as a kind of field-like event that is where no divisions are being made, no distinctions, not this over that or self versus other. It's just an undivided presence. But anyway, it's not really that, and once you know the experience, it's not really important what you call it. But it might be important what you call it, because if you call it concentration, people get misled. That's why Suzuki Roshi has to deal with the term concentration and say what it is not, because he's trying to point to something different, and the word stands in the way. Okay, so this samadhi is wisdom, he says. It's the same as wisdom. By wisdom, quote, we do not mean some particular faculty or philosophy. It is the readiness of the mind that is wisdom. So wisdom could be various philosophies and teachings and various kinds of research and studies. But we should not become attached to some particular wisdom, such as that which is taught by the Buddha. Wisdom is not something to learn. Wisdom, in other words, is not knowledge. Wisdom is not content. Once it's content, it's one-sided. You cannot learn wisdom. It's a posture of the mind. Maybe we could say we can learn that posture of the mind, but you can't learn it as knowledge. You can only learn it as an experience of how to hold your mind. And so he defines wisdom as the readiness of the mind. If you are widened out into the field where there's nothing focused in particular, you are ready to focus. The mind is ready to focus on something. So it could be all kinds of studies, philosophies, insights, all that could be wisdom depending on the situation. Because the mind will bring that up in response. It is ready to bring that up in response to this particular situation. But if you hold on to it, you become one-sided. and you miss the situation. And this is much of our suffering. That we focus on something and then just apply it without having an open mind that is ready to receive what's actually going on and responding to that. So he says, wisdom is something which will come out of your mindfulness, out of your samadhi, I would say here, to be consistent. So the point is to be ready for observing things and to be ready for thinking. This is called emptiness of your mind. And emptiness is nothing but the practice of zazen. Thank you.